Hey everybody, my name is Justin. Welcome back to our Pit Lane Garage. Today we're going to be bringing you a couple changes to the BRZ in preparation for our Ace A350 header install. We'll show you what parts we're swapping out and why. Let's go ahead and get started. So what are we doing today to the car? Again, this is preparation for the Ace header installation. This is kind of a best practices to get the most performance out of the Ace header and the Delicious tune. So we're putting some of the stock parts back on the car because they are proven to be more reliable and better performing than some of the aftermarket counterparts that I have on there. Or they may just be the preferred part that the tuner likes to use. In the case of the intake, we're going to be putting the stock intake back on. This is our standard stock airbox. It does have that Blitz high flow filter installed into it, just the drop-in filter. The big thing with the stock airbox is you retain the stock MAF sensor location, so airflow readings are per a stock car. I also have the new updated Perrin inlet tube for the 2017 version of the car. You might have remembered in previous months I had the Perrin inlet tube from my 2013 FRS on my 2017 car, and while it fits, it's not exactly perfect. This 2017 version is revised specifically for the newer cars and will fit a little bit better. So the first change is the stock airbox with the Perrin inlet tube, and the second thing we'll be putting back on is actually the stock crank pulley as opposed to the lightweight Perrin pulley. Now, after talking this over with the guys at Counterspace Garage and getting their support and knowledge to back this up, we were able to find some data out there that prove that the stock pulley makes a little bit better power in the mid-range and the peak, I believe. We'll try to find the graphs for that you have to compare with. So the preference there was, again, to have the stock part on versus the lightweight part. So we're gonna pop the hood on the car, start getting the old parts off, and then of course we'll go ahead and install the new parts back on the car. I do have to get my current ECU Tech tune revised since I'm putting the stock airbox back on, and kind of the whole goal of putting these parts on right now before the Ace header is I'm going to take this specific setup with my current unequal length RevWorks header back to the dyno, kind of get a baseline dyno of where the car sits now before we throw the Ace header on. So when we do the Ace header installation, we'll basically be comparing that plus the Delicious tune against my current car setup with the RevWorks unequal length header and my HRI tune. So there we go, the old parts are off, or I guess the upgraded parts are off. This is weird going back to stock, but it just goes to show how efficient and effective some of the stock parts are, especially on the newer 2017 cars. No troubles getting the crank pulley bolts loosened up. The green dyno saved my knuckles from getting smashed. I also used a little bit different technique this time. You might have saw in the video, I threw the end of my jack onto the breaker bar for a little more leverage, and this actually made getting that bolt off of the crank pulley loosened quite a bit easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the parts on the table here. Obviously our Perrin crank pulley is off, our Grimspeed intake is off. I do have to move that MAF sensor from that pipe into the stock airbox, which is right there in the stock location, and then we'll get the stock crank pulley put back on, followed by that airbox. So a quick wardrobe change followed by a gym session, and we now have the car back together. Everything went smoothly and as planned. Our stock pulley is installed once again down there, nothing fancy. The new 2017 Perrin inlet tube went in without a hitch except for one thing. Perrin gave me hose clamps for the throttle body and for the intake box that were too small. I had to reuse some hose clamps that I had in the garage here. And this is kind of annoying because I waited 4 months for this Perrin inlet tube specific to the 2017 cars. It got delayed once because of QA issues, and now I get the wrong size hose clamps. Not a huge deal, but was hoping for a little better from Perrin after that long wait. And of course, stock airbox with the Blitz filter inside. So we are now one step closer to getting that Ace header installed on the car. I do have to take the car out on the street, get an ECU Tech data log, and send that into my tuner just to make sure the car is safe, because when we change out the stock airbox from the Grimspeed airbox, we do have a change in the air sensor reading in the computer. So we want to make sure that is done and the car is safe to go on the dyno. But with this, we'll be able to go take it to the dyno, have a good solid baseline to work from before we install the Ace header and get the Delicious tune put on the car. So stay tuned for the installation video coming up next. We'll do that, put the Delicious bass tune on the car. I already have that tune file. We got to do a few different pulls out on the street to get the tune calibrated for the car. Then we'll drive it for a week or so and then get it out on the dyno. But we'll bring a video of the installation process and the initial tuning. I want to give you guys some more details and insight on how the ECU Tech tuning and data logging process works, at least from the consumer point of view. So we'll do that as well when we get the next video out. Let's wrap it up, guys. If you have any thoughts or comments, questions or concerns, leave them down below. Like always, I love to hear from you. Stay tuned, we got some more good stuff coming up real soon. I might even have one more surprise up my sleeve for the BRZ during this winter season upgrade. And don't forget, stay fast out there, everybody. I'm checking out. We'll talk to you all next time.